Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here. I hope you're having an amazing day. We're going to take another look here at Bitcoin, kind of see what's going on. Of course, it's been a little on the misbehaving side lately. I think we're kind of used to that now, right? It's just kind of the standard par for the course Bitcoin behavior to jump up and shoot down. And we'll see what happens, of course. Now, obviously, not a financial advisor. If you're new to the channel, love teaching people how to trade. Been trading for over 15 years. My goal is to help you become a better trader. That's the whole point of this community that I've created, of course. And I can tell I've got a trading academy as well and a signal group that I send out signals for every single trade I take. So be sure to check that out just so you know kind of how to structure your trades more effectively and kind of survive the industry. We also have weekly roundtable discussions too. We're going to have that here today at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I hope you are once again having a great day. Let's take a look here at Bitcoin. And once again, these lines here, I drew those out yesterday kind of just tentatively. It's pretty much creating a type of channel essentially to the downside. Now, how much longer will it go down until it breaks up? It's hard to say. Today might be the day. We have some green here on the candles for a change, but again, a little too early, too premature. We're going to take a look at some of the charts, see what's going on, but just so you know what those lines are there. And once again, we did break down below this this ascending wedge pattern, and we've been breaking down ever since. Okay, so not great stuff there, but let's see how much longer it could possibly continue. So first things first, look at the RSI. We're still close to 30, about 35, had a little bounce off 35 essentially, so just keep in mind it can go lower. Okay, now I get the question a lot like, hey, is 30 going to be a support level? That can work as a support sometimes, but it'll oftentimes break below that in a lot of cases. And sometimes it can stay below. Not saying it's going to do that because if it were to come below 30, we'd probably be trending closer to 30,000. And of course, pretty low, all things considered. Once we hit 35, I think that's probably a potential bottom here for the immediate future. But generally speaking, the 1 day chart is kind of just telling us that we're still in a really, just a constant downtrend. And really, there's no reason to expect it to turn right around, except for the fact that, of course, we're going to start seeing a lot more buying pressure in the immediate future because this is roughly about the same price point that a lot of industry leaders got into as well, or retail investors, etc. There's a big amount of volume between 30 and 36,000, so we could expect some turbulence on the way down, and it may not just shoot straight down as we're expecting. It has been bleeding out pretty bad lately, but in a way, it's not that terrible because if you can set dollar cost average targets, I share that with my community, both my public and my private community, as far as our anticipated targets for dollar cost averaging with Bitcoin. I recommend setting limit orders and getting filled at lower price points as the price comes down. It's not a guarantee it's going to continue to go down, but you have it there and ready to go just in case, right? All right, anyways, that being said, looking at the MACD divergence, we've got a pretty significant divergence here. It can still continue to go down, but keep in mind this is fairly overextended to an extent, right? What I'm getting at is that these lines are pretty low, all things considered. You can see them come lower, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, it's usual and common for the price to start kind of averaging itself out soon. Just based on the fact that this is what I think 6th or 7th day according to TD Sequential, in a row where we've seen just bearish divergence. So yeah, today is the 6th day for the price to be lower than the 4th previous candlestick. Yeah. So likelihood of it continuing down to a 9, I think is kind of high right now. And if you see previously when we came back down to a 9, we did have a decent recovery, and then of course a strong increase from there. Okay. So again, pending nonsense in the news, everything kind of just works itself out. I think we should expect a recovery from Bitcoin in the relative near future. Not today, not tomorrow. I'm not expecting that. I'd be very surprised if we saw an increase in the immediate future, something similar to what we saw on February 4th. I think that's very unlikely. Again, stranger things have happened, but the charts are telling us that we should expect a little bit more downside. I'm fairly confident of that just based on the overall patterns here, but we'll see what the smaller timeframes tell us, because that's, once again, the 1 hour and the 4 hour, those are transitionary timeframes. They translate into the 1 day and the 1 week, right? So with the 1 week or the 1 day more specifically giving us bearish signs, we can see if there's a potential turnaround by looking at some of these smaller timeframes. So the 4 hour, for example, is printing, I wouldn't say higher highs or higher lows, not even close. Perhaps on the 1 hour and the 15, I think we are. But at this point, we're still making lows. In other words, until we can get back up over 40,000, we're still in a situation where we're going to have a pretty strong resistance. And 38,200 is proving to be a strong resistance too. I'll explain more about that when I look at the smaller time frames. But let's go ahead and look at the RSI. And we did have this type of, I think it's considered a bullish divergence, essentially, when the price shot down a little bit further last night, when, of course, the RSI has a tendency of coming up. then of course the price comes down. And I can explain more again on that with the 1 hour, but generally speaking, if you look at the 4 hour here, the price continuing down, and then of course the RSI coming up, that's just kind of a typical bullish divergence where the price just continues to progress downwards because there's literally no buying pressure. That's essentially what it's telling us. And last night I opened a short position. We took profits on profit target 1. I'm confident we'll probably hit target 2 and further, but it has to recover a little bit, right? You can only push something down for so long. And the reason why I took that signal, or of course sent that signal, is based on the simple fact that we had a a type of descending wedge pattern, and I'll show you that on a smaller time frame. Anyways, here looking at the MACD, this is a good sign here. Essentially, we had a MACD convergence. Bear in mind the last few have been stopped out, but this one did essentially come to fruition and effectively give us a decent little increase here from bottom to top. We're looking at roughly 5%. So 5% in the last 12 hours is pretty decent. All right, that's good. We like to see that, but again, how much does it mean if it's just going to get stopped out the next previous high, or the most recent low rather, as a resistance level and push the price down? How beneficial is that? Well, we'll see here soon, of course, and it may not stop. Don't get wrong. This could continue to the upside. It could just be calming down and relaxing. I think we're a bit overextended on the 1 hour. In fact, why don't we go ahead and take a look at that? One last thing here, we're still under both moving averages, just to clarify, on the 1 day and the 4 hour. So just note that until we get back up over the 50-day simple moving average on the 1 day chart, which is slowly progressing down, then we don't have any reason to potentially consider celebrating. Yes, it could still increase between now and then, but I think we're going to see more sideways action than we will an actual increase in price in the near future versus the potential of the price shooting upwards. Okay, if you watch some of these other perhaps moon boys or whatever they're called, you'll probably get a different story. But me personally, there's nothing here telling us that there's a significant increase and that we should expect it to continue. Yes, the 1 hour looks decent, but let me explain. All right, so taking a look at the 1 hour here. Here's kind of what's going on. First of all, quick peek at TD sequential. We just hit a 9, so expecting a pullback. It may not be significant, but once again, we saw a 5% increase in 12 hours. That's kind of a lot when you consider the big picture. Yes, it's been held down for a long time, but in general, a 5% increase traditionally surges the altcoins by 5 to 10%. Okay, so that is kind of a good thing in a small way. But it's not great in the sense that this being overextended, so to speak, on the 1 hour, we could expect that pullback. So again, we've got 9 hours of bullish convergence. And then if we look back in the past here, of course, anytime we've hit a 9, let's see if we have hit an 89s. Well, we hit an 8 there and came down. 6 came down. 8 came down. All right, now again, not expecting the bottom to fall out right now, but I would also be not surprised if it did that. Okay, so again, just keep in mind, anytime we've hit a 9 recently, it's continued to progress lower. If we look at previous time frames too, just say on the inverse, we look at these, we can see an 8 consolidation / increase. Okay, so there is a possibility for the price to continue to increase from here. Okay, so by no means just hitting a 9 on TD sequential tells us it's going to turn right around. It'll probably either consolidate and or retrace. Those are likelihoods, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to, because Bitcoin has proven to just continue to increase, contrary to that theory or that practice, so to speak, right? But again, for the most part, you see a 9, you can expect a turnaround. Okay, so that being said, here on the 1 hour with the overall bullish divergence and essentially, the continuation of the downside, the likelihood of it continuing up right now is fairly low. Again, we had to kind of break this trend line. That's why I drew this out previously. You see these descending type of trend lines, so to speak, where it's a channel that's widening. If you can tell here, we haven't quite hit that ceiling yet. It's hit it multiple times, continue to progress downwards, and it comes down and hits that bottom, comes back up. So there's a couple of scenarios we could see here. The price could travel sideways, consolidate, kind of reset TD sequential, come back up to try to push and break that trend line. If that were to happen, then Bitcoin would have my attention, and I would be willing to kind of look at some other scenarios. So that's a possibility. The second possibility, of course, is it tries to do the same thing and gets rejected and comes down. That's a likelihood. And or the third possibility, the price just continues to progress down lower, makes lower lows, and at that point, we know we're in for a much lower time frame. So ultimately, Bitcoin's giving us a few different scenarios as per usual, not surprised by that, but we can kind of estimate a couple of things here. Or actually, let's go ahead and establish a couple of things. First of all, there's probably a decent amount of volume profile, I'm guessing, right around 38,200. There we go, 38.2, 38.3. Therefore, that's considered to be a potential resistance, right? So we got to kind of respect that level at this moment because the price did get rejected out right at that price point. And of course, there was a previous support level as well, right? And if you've seen any of my videos or just understand generally, previous support levels that are constantly tested, which this one was tested multiple times. Yes, it got broken a few times, but it effectively worked as a support level. It was tested for almost what? A full 12 hours. So 12 hours worth of testing eventually broke. Now it got tested and it's only been tested twice, and now it's a resistance. Okay. So the likelihood of it breaking up above that, well, it's going to take a lot more volume to get there. And I'm not sure if we have that just yet. There is a slight increase in volume in the last 24 hours. So that is a positive. But on the same accord, we have, again, we reached a state of exhaustion going right into a resistance. Oftentimes, when you have a state of exhaustion, so to speak, as just say a 9, for example, and you have a 5% increase, you can expect a retracement. The likelihood of it coming down is much higher than it is to go sideways or up from here. Now, the question is, how much lower will it go? That's one thing we cannot foresee or understand. But I think if we were to go anything lower than just say 37.5, then we'll probably continue downwards. And I mean that because the fact that we had this as a potential little support here where the price did not want to go back below 37.5. It didn't, bounced up, and then effectively lost that. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at there. The last thing I want to kind of show you too is the reason why I took my trade last night, because my community sometimes likes to understand the purpose for it. Now I did send out a signal, kind of a heads up before I took the signal, kind of letting you know what I was seeing before the price broke down. And essentially what I saw, and it was pretty straightforward, minus the bullish divergence on the 4-hour. They also have, basically we took our trade right here. It was working its way into this descending wedge pattern on the 15. It was also concurrently under the volume weighted average price and was stuck there too for about 45 minutes straight. And if you have seen any of my videos from the past, I always recommend, if you're using VWAP, to ensure that you wait for 30 minutes of confirmation on the 15-minute chart specifically. If your price does not break above VWAP after 15 minutes, not a big deal. If it doesn't break above after 30 minutes, it's a much stronger likelihood it's holding as a resistance and the price will go down from there. That's what I saw, and that's essentially what caused the price to continue to go lower because there was an extremely low amount of volume at the time. If you see this, there's a tremendous amount of low volume before the price dropped down, and that candlestick there, of course, is essentially a large candle worth of volume because obviously there was a bunch of selling pressure. So again, just some things to kind of consider or think about if you are kind of more so a day trader. That's essentially what I looked for, and that's what kind of caused me to send out that signal and hit our profit target in about 10 minutes. So again, good stuff. I'm expecting the price to continue to progress downwards, but I would not be surprised if we see some sideways consolidation between, what is it? I think it's right around 30. Yeah, we should see somewhere between 36.8 and 37.5 if we break 37.5. If we don't break 37.5, we can expect it to try to push once again to break the resistance of 38.2, and then of course try to break this trend line as well. And if we break the trend line, then at that point I think it would be considered to be open season in a small way, and we should expect the price to continue to break upwards, because at that point we'd probably be having at the very least higher highs and higher lows in the 4-hour. And that's a good sign. It's too premature right now to say we're trending towards that, because once again we got the key level resistance at roughly 38.2, and I think that's going to continue to hold, but we'll see here soon, of course, because once again we've got this nice little resistance level here, and I like to see a 9 on TD sequential, and I like to see the price come back down. So I'm hoping the price comes lower just because we have some good dollar cost average targets. I'd like to hit 36.2, our second profit target on the signal, but even more important, just kind of keep adding to our position as the price goes down. I know it sounds kind of crazy because I know we all want our altcoins to flourish, but trust me, they will if we come down even a little bit further. The further down we go, the harder they're going to come back up. I know it sounds weird and crazy and the opposite of what it should be, but that's exactly how it goes. All right, anyways, hopefully that helps you clarify a few things. I apologize I jumped around a little bit, but I'm trying to get the point here and just help you understand that, of course, patience is important, right? Try not to just jump right in because of the fact that it's back in. If you're going to jump in, feel free to add to your position. I mean, I added a decent amount to my portfolio at 37,000. And that's just kind of one of those areas that I feel is a good value. So again, do your own due diligence. Make sure that you always, when you take your own trades, set multiple profit targets, set a trailing stop loss. And if you're going to be following my trades, make sure you set it to your own risk tolerance, because mine is much different than anyone else's. Even though I'm conservative, I still have to be risky sometimes in this type of market. It's a little bit, it's just kind of the way it goes, I guess. So again, hope you found benefit. If you'd like to become a community member, link in the description below, of course, CryptoCache.tech. Go ahead and join a roundtable discussion here today around 2 p.m. Eastern, every Tuesday at 2. That's essentially the goal there. I hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you.